welcome to Fast Break Breakfast, NBA podcast. My name is Keith. Got Seth Partnow coming up in a little bit. Damian Anaya is here for the last drop. I'm joined right now by Jon Burr. Jon, how's it going?
Toodles, everyone. It's going slowly.
Going slowly. That's good.
I feel a bit out of the loop, but I've got, thankfully, in the world of podcasting, when all else fails, you talk about injuries.
We could talk about a lot of injuries because it's taken over the NBA. I mean, we had an incredible Wednesday night, as we always do, but now it seems like the injuries have totally piled up. We have LeBron James, who apparently has COVID and seems to be very, very confused what's happening. He said something
immunized. Is he Aaron Rodgers immunized?
Also, our social media update for the morning, Meta World Peace has asked on Twitter, real quick, sorry to burden you. Can someone explain COVID to me? I'm kind of lost right now. Welcome to the party, Meta World Peace. It's never too late, I guess, to find some answers. You have Bam Adebayo out 4 to 6 weeks. Bam's Miami Heat got destroyed by the Cleveland Cavaliers on Wednesday night. A few things about this game and the Bam Adebayo injury. There was a moment, and I'm sorry Chuck can't be here to reminisce. There was a moment this year, early in the season, where we were like, are the Heat the best team in the NBA? Now, the Heat have kind of tumbled down the standings. They're behind the Bucks, the Milwaukee Bucks, who started slowly. Don't look now. The Milwaukee Bucks are 10-0 this year when their 3 best players play.
Mm-hmm.
So 10-0 with Drew Holiday, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Chris Middleton. They've now passed the Heat in the standings. The Heat are going to miss Bam Adebayo for 4 to 6 weeks, we think, with a wrist injury. Also, speaking of maybe disease, the South Beach flu has infected one of the Heat's own. Duncan Robinson has caught the South Beach flu. His splits for the year, he's shooting 21.8% on threes at home.
I know I've blamed it on the ball, but I think the man's just too rich now.
He got paid. He lost.
He's just too rich. I just don't understand how it can happen.
I think he lost his confidence when he saw Max Strus coming in, making a bunch of shots. He saw the understudy starting to make a bunch of 3-pointers. He's like, oh man, I better not slip up. I'm going to lose my job. And that pressure has gotten to him. This guy, I mean, on the road, he's still
what percentage does he have to shoot to where his gravity no longer exists on the court?
He has missed 15 consecutive shots. I only know this because I picked him up. I streamed him in fantasy basketball thinking I'd bank some 3-pointers. Should
have gotten Mr. Garrison out of Houston.
He made his first 3-pointer of the week and has now missed. He's 1 for 16 on the week. The home and road splits, got the South Beach flu. Also injury, also looking at strange home and road splits. The Portland Trailblazers. I had missed this. The Portland Trailblazers, who are going to miss Damian Lillard for at least 10 days with some abdomen issue. The Trailblazers are 10-1 at home, 1-10 on the road.
Rose Garden, baby.
That's some old-timey college basketball numbers, I feel like.
Cameron Crazy's up in here.
Yeah, I
think it's just you get that patchouli white righteous indignation in the Moda Center, and all is well in the universe. Although we'll see what happens now. Isn't Dame out for a while with a strained tummy? It's a new one on me. We got a lot of strange injuries this week. Cat's falling on his bum.
Cat had a very horrible looking injury. Yeah.
Yes. It looked testicular in nature at first, but it turns out just the hindquarters, but definitely in the loinal region.
I think he's going to be all right. We also had a couple of huge games, primetime games the last 2 nights. You had the Sixers-Celtics game where we had an iShop submission by Joel Embiid going 3 for 17 in a narrow defeat to the Celtics. The night before that, Steph Curry.
7-footer iShops hit different.
Oh, they really do. The game before, Steph Curry had a massive, I believe it was a 4 for 21 line that he locked in that loss to the Spurs. I guess we can close with this. The opposite of those terrible shooting percentages, the Dallas Mavericks set an NBA record.
My Dallas Mavericks.
Your Dallas Mavericks. The Jason kid, he coached him up, John.
I know, dude. You see he's benching people, like starting people for a game, benching them
he swapped out that starting lineup. He said Reggie Bullock.
Moses Brown sightings.
You go do it. We're going to Tim Hardaway Jr. off the bench. They responded, and it might have been in relation to the team they were playing, the New Orleans Pelicans. They made so many field goal attempts. They set an NBA record with a 79.5% effective field goal percentage for the game.
Are we sure they weren't playing the Grizzlies? Can we be certain?
Grizzlies are good now, John.
I know.
Grizzlies.
There was a moment there.
On Thursday night, look for their seventh consecutive victory in games Ja Morant has missed.
I'm in for it.
I know. You are fully bought in. Also, Grizzlies sad news. Tony Allen got arrested again.
The other shoe.
Other
shoe.
I don't know any details. The Daily Memphian reporting that he was arrested on a domestic disturbance. Oh, how the mighty heroes have fallen. I guess we'll wait to see all the details. This is just a few days after the Grizzlies announced officially that his jersey retirement in January was going to be postponed until next season. Bunch of terrible.
I think we're looking at a 2029.
Here's another actually a positive note from Wednesday night. This goes back to the Cavaliers obliterating the Heat. Ricky Rubio in the last two games. All right. JB Bickerstaff.
I'm familiar with these stats. They're unbelievable. The disparity betwixt.
Which are you saying?
The plus minus being so high and the number of shots being made.
It's incredible. So JB Bickerstaff, which we have disparaged before for his time on the Grizzlies, his fixation on Shelvin Mack and his not playing Jaren Jackson Jr. when he's on the Grizzlies. But now JB Bickerstaff, much like Jason Kidd, coaching up the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers, by the way, John, 2 days ago, I saw this on a gambling site. They had the same playoff odds. They were plus 650 to make the playoffs as the Pacers. The Pacers were plus 650 to make the playoffs, and the Cavaliers were plus 650 to make the playoffs. Seemed like a weird oversight. Oh, definitely. The Cavaliers are good. I believe in the Cavaliers. But JB Bickerstaff, right? He changed up the lineup. He moved Ricky Rubio to the bench. And in these last two games, Rubio was only 4 for 16 on field goal attempts, 25% from the field. Averages 6 assists per game, pedestrian Rubio numbers, plus 68 in his last two games.
I can just kind of like when it comes to what my NBA fan existence has been lately due to not being able to watch as many games, it's just opening up the box scores of mediocre basketball teams and just drinking it in. And no one does it better than the Mavs and the Cavs. You just get strange brew, especially when the Mavs and Cavs meet.
Have you had a chance? I know you just got back from traveling. Have you had a chance to open up the Houston Rockets box score from yesterday? I know you mentioned Garrison Matthews earlier. Franklin, Tennessee's own Garrison Matthews lighting up.
Started in place of the injured Jalen Green, correct?
Yeah, but no, Garrison Matthews has been lining up. Jayshawn Tate.
Oh, I did like 32 points, right?
He had 32 points. He had 5 blocks. I think he had 8 rebounds. This man was taunting the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is the 4th time the Thunder and Rockets have already played this season. They don't get to play anymore. But he was showing off.
This is the what time?
They've already played their entire season series. It's over.
How does this happen?
It's bizarre.
Let's just do season series, play a 4-game series and move on.
They did it, but Jayshawn Tate was like prancing around the court, taunting every player. He would come flying in. Someone would grab a defensive rebound. He would steal it from them, pump fake into them, knock them off like their feet, make a layup, and then he would scowl at him. It was like a combination of Barkley and Sam Cassell and Michael Jordan
and Billy Madison.
Really, it was Jayshawn Tate
dodgeballs at children.
Was in his element. He was the guy who's like, this Thunder team doesn't actually have NBA players, and I am a superstar against these people.
Okay. I don't want to detract from your Grizz podcast too much, but who's more in their element, Jayshawn Tate playing the Thunder or Dillon Brooks in a Canadian post-game presser.
Oh, that's a great tease for the conversation that I had with Seth. That's coming up in just a couple minutes. We talk about, do the Grizzlies need just the whirling dervish of Dillon Brooks throwing shots at the rim just in the absence of nothing else happening? Do they need him to go 5 for 18? Is he the catalyst by just doing a bunch of crazy stuff? Anyway,
that's Dillon Brooks's game is so double-edged that there's kind of, we've brought up and we mentioned him on this very show. We brought up the name Tony Allen so often that it may just be one of those things where I'm going to have to learn to take the bad with the good.
Yeah, I think you need to. It's trick or treat Dillon all over. If you want to get more excited about the Grizzlies games, this is exciting. We are going to be watching a Grizzlies game in person this coming Wednesday, December 8th. If you're in the Nashville, Tennessee area, come on down to Noble's Beer Hall at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, December 8th for Grizzlies versus Jason Kidd's Dallas Mavericks. It's a big game in the battle for the Southwest Division. I believe all the drinks are 2 for 1. During this, I'll have to double check that. I'm pretty sure we got 2 for 1 drinks. If not, I know they have intense beer specials over there. Plus, we'll be giving away lots and lots of Grizzlies prizes. So if you're anywhere near Nashville, come on down to Noble's Beer Hall on Wednesday, December 8th at 7 p.m. Well, anyway, John, I appreciate you stopping in. I'll see you a few times next week. We got the big show. Then we got that watch party coming up on Wednesday.
Adios.
I'm joined right now by Seth Partnow. Seth, how's it going?
It's going pretty well.
Good. You've written a book, The Mid-Range Theory. It's sold out at Target. Congrats.
Is it really?
Well, I just looked online right now
Okay.
and it said it wasn't available. I assume if I'm to purchase it, where's the best way?
Right now, people have been having good luck getting it from either Amazon or direct from the publisher Triumph Books.
Triumph Books. We'll do the plug up front. What's the elevator pitch for your masterpiece?
Well, first of all, it's a masterpiece. Thank you for saying so.
Sure.
But no, it's basically an attempt to explain, I don't want to say in lay terms, but in simplified terms, what basketball analytics actually is and how it has interacted with other developments in the game, such as rule changes in player skills, skill sets, strategic development, stuff like that, to make the modern game we see today. I think so much of the debate about the sort of the false debate about, the nerds versus jocks and the real hoopers versus the analytics nerds is based on sort of a fundamental misunderstanding of what the discipline is. And so trying to explain that almost in better terms and make it clear that it's just basketball with a different lens. It's not something different. It's not computer science or astronomy or physics. It's basketball. We're just looking at it, from a different angle and maybe a different height.
Yeah. One of the things that I feel like is most misconstrued recently in the general talk is just some feeling of people who use analytics or look at the numbers don't enjoy basketball or something, like, oh, you're not getting the same enjoyment I get from watching a play. Like, no, I really like watching basketball. It's also interesting to see what the data says about the thing I'm enjoying.
Why did I start doing this?
Exactly. Why do you think people are pulling out these numbers? Because they're really obsessed and enjoy basketball. We'll get some more of that in a second, because I don't want to get out of order on the show and not ask you about your breakfast, which is a requirement, a prerequisite for every episode with our guests. So Seth, have you had any good breakfast recently?
My daughter made us order IHOP on Sunday.
Oh, how'd the IHOP go for you?
I mean, my daughter loves IHOP. She's loved IHOP ever since a couple of years ago when they did she was sucked in by advertising. They had like the Grinch themed pancakes.
Ooh.
And she was like, oh, I want those. And so now like IHOP is our special, not a special occasion, but a Sunday after Thanksgiving is probably a special occasion.
Yeah.
So had IHOP, that was probably the breakfast highlight of
what is your IHOP order? I don't know. Do they have a special? I don't know if they have like a Waffle House Grand Slam or a Denny's Grand Slam.
I just get pancakes and eggs and and bacon. You know, the stand depending on how I'm feeling, what I might get something on the pancakes. I got cranberries and vanilla this time.
Whoa,
which was okay. It was like vanilla. It was like vanilla frosting. It was maybe a little too sweet, but like strawberries or blueberries or something like that is a usual go-to.
Yeah, I saw some people disparaging IHOP recently, and I haven't been there in a long time. But I also have a pretty firm: any restaurant that has syrup on the table, it's fine. Like, I'm not going to be, you have syrup on your table, I'm probably going to enjoy what I'm eating here.
Also, an 8 and a 5-year-old really like it. So that makes it
exactly
ideal in my book.
That makes it perfect. All right. So going back a little bit to the analytics conversation, is there anything you mentioned, like rule changes? Is there anything with this year, especially with the kind of extreme rule change with shooting fouls and free throws are at a historic low. The number of fouls called per game are at an all-time low. Is there anything notable about that maybe has drastically changed or changed somewhat strategy? Like has the 3-point been devalued at all because you don't get a free throw now, whatever percent of the time where you used to last time?
So there's two things going on. One is the direct, like three shot fouls are way down, but it's way down as a percentage. So I haven't pulled the numbers in a week or so. So this might be slightly off, but last year around 1.4% of 3-pointers attempted included a shooting foul. And this year it's maybe half that or 0.8%. Now that's a big, drop in magnitude, but in terms of that's like, one foul every three fouls every 4 games to one foul every other game or something like that. So it's, it's not in terms of magnitude, it's not actually that big a deal. Now, whether the ability to know that you're not going to get called for a foul has allowed teams to contest shots more effectively, and that has resulted in lower shooting percentages, maybe. We are, now a quarter of the way into the season, and it's among the lowest 3-point percentages in basically since the 3-pointer became a thing. And it's by a decent margin. So the part that makes me reticent on that is even uncontested threes are being hit at the lowest rate of kind of the tracking data era by a decent margin. And that seems more extreme because last year was at least up until fans came back in, it was by a wide margin the most accurate the league had ever been on uncontested threes. So the sort of the whiplash of going from everyone making everything to nobody really making anything, and it's 2.5 percentage point difference, which is actually a pretty sizable amount, but it's not. Again, it's not that. It's a make and a half a game or so. It
feels sizable, and when you're looking at the Basketball Reference stats, and you're like, oh, they haven't been this low in like 25 years or so as far as the 3-point accuracy, it feels kind of shocking.
No, but part of it is also like I'm a little surprised it hasn't come up more recently, because 3-point shooting tends to always start a year poor. Like shooting is one of those things that starts slowly, and then as the season goes on, whether it's guys get a rhythm or defenses get a little more tired or what have you, there's all different kinds of things we could speculate, but generally speaking, like a 3-point percentage like starts slow, kind of increases over the year, takes another little dip after the All-Star break, and then kind of ramps back up again until we get to the sort of the extreme silly season of the last couple weeks of the regular season.
That's really interesting. That might explain this just random stat that I was looking at. I've been tracking like teams because of like the league dependence on 3-pointers, and basically like the Grizzlies were in this boat where if they don't defend and then they also don't make 3-pointers, they will not win. Like they flat out won't win. Basically, the last couple games they started playing D, and all right, so they picked up a win, not shooting very well. But like I was looking at teams' winning percentage when they make fewer than just 10 3-pointers and arbitrarily chosen single-digit 3-pointers. But I was seeing in October, the first month of the season, it didn't seem to bother teams teams that made 9 or fewer 3-pointers actually won 40% of their games. It was like, it's not that big of a deal. But since then, they win about 21% of their games. So maybe that is everyone else figured out how to shoot. And now maybe it's still like a big thing. The dependence on, if you're not making 3-pointers, you're going to lose almost 4/5 of the time, 3/4 of the time.
I mean, it's, I'm not the one who made up the expression make or miss league.
Right.
And so and I don't think that's something that's necessarily changed completely with the advent of the three. I mean, one of the things that and I talk about this in the book a little, if I can get back to plugging, but seriously,
sure.
Is like the like around just over half of all NBA shots are jump shots, whether mid-range or 3-pointers. 25 years ago, just over half of all NBA shots were jump shots, either mid-range or 3-pointers. It's just some of the mid-range have moved out to the 3. So it's now with the one extra point for the 3, it's a little bit swingier, but it's still a team. If you make jump shots, you're more likely than not to win because everyone takes a lot of jump.
You're frozen for me.
Jump shots.
You got me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So one thing about, make or miss league, this is something that's said a lot, I feel like, on basketball broadcasts by like the color commentators. And maybe this is something addressed in your book. Is there some idea of if your 3-pointers aren't going in, you should change your strategy mid-game? I hear this a lot, like, hey, the shot's not going in. Like, why are the Sacramento Kings ramming their head against the wall, shooting 20% and 3-pointers in a game? Should they switch it up? Or like, if I'm watching the Grizzlies and like, oh my goodness, we were 4 for 20 3-pointers in the first half. Should they now go inside, or should they just keep firing the 3-pointers? Like, is there a statistical or is there an analytics answer to that question?
Well, I mean, the analytics answer is the best. Like, layups and free throws are still the best shots you can get.
Of course.
So
yeah.
You always want to get those. Now, if you're missing a bunch of threes, should you do something else? I would say it depends. Like, are you getting good shots for good shooters? Then keep doing it. Like, you're talking about the Sacramento Kings. Like, Buddy Hield is, if Buddy Hield has missed 3 open threes in a row, and I can get open threes for Buddy Hield the next 3 trips down the floor.
Yeah.
I think that's still fine. Like, now if there's something physically or mechanically wrong with him right now, then maybe that's a coaching thing that he shouldn't be on the floor. But, but it's hard to say that, these good shots, or decent to good shots aren't going in. So let's take bad shots.
Right. I mean, obviously,
that's sort of like, yes, if the shots you're getting aren't going in, maybe you're not shooting well. Like, yeah, maybe try to get to the line, try to get to the rim, stuff like that. Of course, I don't see how stepping in and taking a contested pull up helps.
Right. A common refrain that I see a lot is like a player like Jaren Jackson Jr., who he'll miss a lot of shots, and he's obviously a 7-footer, and they're like, why don't he's going to paint? We get a paint touch drive to the rim. But even when I watch, like, I went back and watched like every one of his threes this year, it's like he's basically taking all open threes. So it's like, if he's just taking good shots, if he makes them, we win. So we just work out that those are good shots, and we'll stick with it.
No, that and generally speaking, that's sort of, well, he should get to the rim more. It's like, well, if he was better, he'd be better. Is basically what that argument is.
Exactly.
Like, okay, yes, he should be better at basketball is basically what you're arguing. Like,
well,
getting to the rim is good.
And that's a hilarious refrain from all NBA fans, and especially particularly with the Grizzlies fans. It's like, oh, well, why doesn't Marc Gasol, why didn't he score 20 every game? It's like, well, he's not one of the best 2 players in the league. Like, if he was as good as that and could also have the offensive end, he'd be amazing. He's very, very good. And it's the same with Jaren. Yeah, if he always had it all going on, he'd be an all-star. And like, yeah, so it's not as easy as far as like analytics always favoring the layups. And this is something that people do get wrong a lot, where they're like, on a fast break, you're shooting a 3-pointer. You're like, well, why did they do that? Do we know, like, who started shooting 3-pointers on like a 3-on-1 fast break? Because analytics has never said to do that, right? Like, how do we end up with this in the league right now?
I think, on if you can get a layup, you get a layup, but sometimes like on a 3-on-2 break than like a 3, like they cover the 2 guys and there's someone wide open in the corner. And if you get into kind of the tracking data, you can see that like transition 3-pointers are generally speaking, very accurate shots. I don't have access to this data anymore, but I remember looking at it and being amazed because like over the course of the Warriors run, like Klay Thompson was shooting something like 60% on transition threes, which get a layup or Klay Thompson,
Yeah.
Like, but that's, that's a bit of an outlier, but Trent, like, yes, if you have a 3-on-1 and a guy runs to the corner instead of cutting to the rim for a layup, that's not awesome. But on other situations, like do players sometimes err and make bad decisions and kick the ball out for 3? Sure. But do players sometimes err and try to go to the rim themselves and get a charge? Like, right. Sometimes players make bad plays and it's not, it's almost saying that we have too much powers of sorcery that it's that guy on Twitter is why he threw the ball out of bounds trying to get a 3-point.
Right. Well, I always wonder like who was if it is Klay Thompson or if it's just the Warriors in their dynastic little run of like this fast break thing. But I'm always curious on fast breaks when you see a 2-on-1 and instead of running what, I don't know, call a traditional 2-on-1 just to get for a layup. When one guy starts flaring out to the corner or the wing, I assume coaches are not practicing that. Or is that something that the players have picked up on their own, or are coaches saying, hey, listen, transition 3-pointers are a great opportunity. Let's go ahead and try to attack that way if we get a fast break opportunity.
Some of both.
Okay.
It's also, I think it's also a relic of so many pickup games being 1s and 2s.
Oh, okay.
Like, yeah. It's like, I'll be honest. Like I play, like my high school career was in the early 90s and I was not particularly big, not particularly explosive around the rim. So I tended to run to the line on fast breaks as well, because that seemed like the thing to do. And the first NBA player I can really remember doing it is Chuck Person.
Oh yeah.
But then I think it probably gained more currency in the NBA during like the late 90s seasons of the short line, which kind of was sort of goosed the adoption of the 3 league wide anyway. But I think it seemed like, you know what, I take pull-ups from here. I used to take pull-ups from here on the break. Now those are bad shots, but never worth a point more. So they're less bad shots, but maybe still not awesome. So no, but it's like, would you prefer to get a layup or get fouled? Sure. Sometimes that's not what the defense gives you. And so an open 3 for a good shooter is a pretty good second best option.
I also remember there was a play last year that was quite hilarious. I'd say that the Nuggets got a turnover down by 1 with like 5 seconds left and had a 3-on-1. And 2 of the players ran to the 3-point line and they just bungled the game away. One of the better lowlights from last season. Yeah. Unrelated to analytics, I'm actually curious about this because I saw a discussion about this on the timeline that you were somewhat involved in. I stayed out totally. But talking about the Grizzlies and the Pelicans and their swap of Jonas Valanciunas last year, and Jonas Valanciunas still leading the NBA in 3-point percentage this year, added that to his game, become a stretch big. And I am probably too biased and too in the weeds on it from a Grizzlies fan perspective. When you consider just the Lakers pick, because the Grizzlies swapped out for Steven Adams, Jonas for Steven Adams. They moved up to get Zaire Williams in the draft. They also picked up this Lakers pick, which is looking awesome. If the season ended right now, the Pelicans would actually keep it because it would be the 10th pick, which is not great. But assuming that pick transfers to the Grizzlies, and let's say conservatively, like the 18th pick, like I don't know how high the Lakers are getting. Like in my mind, I would trade Jonas Valanciunas and his league-leading 3-point percentage, I think, where the Grizzlies are, for, say, the 18th pick in next year's draft. I don't think Pelicans fans would redo the deal because they're like, we have Jonas Valanciunas. That's great. So as a vaguely neutral observer, what's your take on just trading Jonas Valanciunas right now if you were the Pelicans or the Grizzlies just to get, I don't know, like a 18th, 19th pick in next year's draft?
I think he is a pretty good player to get with sort of a mid late first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much going on with that deal because part of it is there's question as to whether the very reasonable extension he signed with New Orleans was available for Memphis. I've heard that it might have been, but at the same time, I can kind of see him being less than enthusiastic about, actually, we want Jaren to replace you. But you can resign here if you want. I can see a player sort of being reticent about that. But it was also, I mean, part of it is I think that the Grizzlies thought they were getting like Josh Giddey or something like that with the pick they moved up for. And it looks, given that Zaire Williams was probably, according to most draft boards, was probably a reach where they took him. It looks less good because, they traded up to get a guy they could have just got anyway. And there's probably some truth to that. So those are kind of two separate things. Maybe that's a misread of the draft market. Maybe it's a failure to, what if the guy we really want is gone? What do we do? But on top of Jaren Jackson already, for the Grizzlies to develop, they need Jaren Jackson to become that second star, and that's going to be harder for them to do with the version of Valanciunas they knew and loved as sort of this interior masher. It's kind of getting in Jaren Jackson's way. It's kind of, I refer to as kind of training wheels for the team. Like it definitely raised the floor of last year's team, but I don't know if it also allowed Taylor Jenkins to, when Jaren Jackson was kind of scuffling a little bit, to, okay, come sit by me. Jonas will bring us home. And that was probably right in the moment for winning games, but for the Grizzlies to be good, Jackson has to develop. And if he's not going to develop, they have to know that. So that's sort of clarifying that path, I think has some value to them at long run.
Yeah, and I'm firmly in agreement with all that you just said. The training wheels analogy. Yes, like just getting Jonas out the door to forcing Jaren to be like, hey, can you play center, whatever it is, 15 minutes a game? Can you close every game at center? It's also really
foul.
And not foul. And like his foul rate is down this year. His defense, some of that, I also wanted the foul rate. It feels like refs are giving him the benefit of the doubt now, where they did not in his previous 2 years. So maybe he's gained a little respect from the officiating. But also, like 2 years ago, Jonas was not playing in fourth quarters a lot because they were going young. So that's another interesting aspect of it, of whether or not Jonas was like, yeah, I want to resign and play here. But I'm also like, I thought about it so much, and I was like tracking how many times the Grizzlies lost against good teams. Like they basically never beat good teams when Jonas Valanciunas played. And so I'm like, who cares? I don't care about beating the bad teams by him putting up 30 and 20. I'd rather let other people do it. But I'm so like, I guess when you cover a team and you're do it from like a vague fan perspective, where I'm just like, I'm so excited to see these other guys play that I've convinced myself this is the right path. And the icing on the cake is this Lakers pick is now like way better than I at least thought it was going to be. I don't know if we want to give the Grizzlies front office credit for being like, hey, that Lakers pick, maybe he's not going to be 25th or 26th. It could be late teens.
Remind me, I don't think the Lakers had traded for Westbrook yet when that happened.
Oh, and they I don't even remember. No, because they would have been. Yeah.
And they certainly hadn't like filled out their roster with the questionable crew that they did. So I think that like giving them credit for foresight of kind of, I don't say the wheels falling off, but the scuffle that the Lakers have had so far this year, that's fortuitous. Like, okay, LeBron's getting up there in age, and maybe this is the year. So that's kind of like it's a lottery ticket maybe. So like, yeah, some credit for that appearing to come in, but I think the Lakers had engaged themselves with a lot more disaster potential after that deal was made, and that's the way.
So possibly you're right. So the Westbrook trade was after the draft. So possibly the Grizzlies front office just exchanged a lot of high fives, maybe after the Westbrook trade, and maybe that made that pick slightly more valuable. Let's finish with this. One of the things about getting Jonas Valanciunas out the door is maybe getting more shots. We thought for Ja, for Desmond Bane, for Jaren Jackson Jr. It also, so far this season, has led to Dillon Brooks actually increasing the number of field goals he's taking, which I don't think was totally in the Grizzlies' plans. Is there a way to, is there a, what I'm trying to say, to quantify the value of a high volume chucker on a team that maybe doesn't have anyone else who's good at creating their own shot, or the other players are like reticent to shoot all the time? Like Dillon Brooks is right now leading the NBA basically in shots per minute. And he's not incredibly efficient, but there's sometimes I'm watching the Grizzlies where I'm like, they need this madman to brick 15 shots and go barreling into the lane, because if he doesn't do it, nothing else happens on offense. So like, I know there's the Kobe assist from back in the day of Kobe Bryant's generating all this offense by missing a bunch of shots because the defense is rushing at him. It's creating offensive rebound opportunities. Like, is there a way to quantify the missed shots of Dillon Brooks as being possibly a necessary thing for the Grizzlies?
I mean, someone's got to shoot, and a bad shot's better than a shot clock violation.
There you go.
But I sort of think of Dillon Brooks as sort of, it's somewhat similar to Valanciunas in that it's sort of the crutch that he'll take the shot. Now I think he certainly there's a version of him that would be a very useful player as the Grizz sort of hopefully ascend. Like the sort of the you saw the best version of that, I think, in the play-in game specifically with his the physicality of his defense on Steph Curry was huge in them actually getting into the playoffs. And then he made every shot in the playoffs, and that's great. But that's sort of outlier from his career. I think that if having a guy who is a mediocre or worse efficiency guy being as high usage as he is a problem. Now, whether that's a him and shot selection problem or a lack of offense creation everywhere on the roster problem, it's kind of the same thing. And that's sort of it's almost a handbrake on their offense that has to get removed for it to really sing. And so if that means like moving him into a different role that he'd accept, or moving him away from the team, like I think that's longer term something that needs to happen for as they progress. Yeah, and it's if he had like Desmond Bane's shot profile, would their offense be better right now? I don't know, maybe not. They don't, like, especially with Ja out, they kind of need someone to create some shots. That's true, but if they're at the point where Ja's out, so we need Dillon Brooks to be our main offensive engine, kind of where are you?
Right. It's not ideal. He's in the 2.5 games since John Morant's injury, he's gone into hyperdrive on the field goal attempts. But I mean, he plays an absolutely useful role, and I think even as the Grizzlies get better, I think his role is kind of it's like he can defend the other guy's top player. And you saw, like you said, in the play-in game, the what do you call it? The first play-in game against the Spurs, he shut down DeMar DeRozan. And then at the end of the season, he also shut down Luka Doncic. It was like a 3-game stretch where basically he shut down the other team's top guy. And he's still that defensive player. This year, the Grizzlies, one of the worst defensive teams for the season. But while Dillon Brooks has been on the court, they're pretty good. So, I think he has that huge defensive role. The roller coaster of the offensive role, we just need to make the highs and lows maybe a little less.
Yeah.
Maybe just swing that ball one more time, and the success will then follow. Well, anyway, Seth, thanks so much for coming on. The book is called The Mid-Range Theory. You can get it at your publisher, Triumph Books, or on Amazon. A great stocking stuffer gift for the holiday season. Seth, thanks a bunch, and I look forward to the next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, we only lost 11 minutes. As soon as my morale improves, I will. All right, here we go. It's now time for the last drop. I'm joined by a huge Suns fan, my buddy, Damian Anaya. Damian, how's it going?
Oh, dude, it's great. It's amazing. What are you talking about?
It's good, right?
17 in a row.
Oh, you guys did not lose in the month of November.
No, yeah. It's is it the first time this has happened for the Suns? I believe.
No, I believe 2006.
Or do they?
This is tied their longest winning streak. They're a little bit over halfway to the NBA record of 33 games, won in a row by the Los Angeles Lakers back when the league, I don't think, was very competitive. No, I'm happy to have you on because things are good for the Suns. I don't always hit you up when things are great. I mean, technically,
I know you were kind of gone in those 2010s when the Suns were doing winning 15 games. Winning 18 games total.
Honestly, I would have loved to have you on, but we did not communicate actually then. I don't think honestly, it turns out we hadn't communicated, I think, since that previous 17-game win streak. There was like a 12-year gap in our friendship. And we've now
the graph took a huge dip. In the bad Suns years. So
it's just too bad. I would have loved to rub your face in it.
Yeah. But for us to keep our friendship going, I believe it all hinges on how good the Suns are.
But to be fair, I had you on when you guys had basically won the NBA title. You guys were up in the finals. I was ready to apologize, eat some crow about the Suns. And then you being on is the thing that sparked the team to collapse. In that series.
I don't know if we, I'm trying to recall the conversation we had, but even at the time I don't know how set I was on if they were going to pull it out or not. And
you were cautious. I was trying to goad you into some jinxes, and you were being honestly. I think you tried to be pretty cautious about it.
Because you gave me the whole Chris Paul curse rundown. And I remember even after that, it was in the back of my mind the whole time because there were still some things where you're like, ooh, his wrists are hurt or something, or like, I don't know, some weird stuff going on. So I don't know.
The Suns right now, obviously they beat the Warriors on Tuesday. They've won 17 in a row now. When does it stop? Have you looked at the schedule? How
I'm looking at it right now. So we have Detroit tonight.
Feels like a trap game right there.
It's Detroit. Come on.
I don't know. Trap games can't be obvious. I mean, you have to.
That's true. Yeah.
Who's after Detroit? All right, let's go and mark it down. 18 wins in a row after beating Detroit on Thursday night.
Well, keep this in mind. They have to play the Warriors again at Golden State on Friday. So
there you go. Second night of a back-to-back.
Yeah. And who knows when Booker will be back? I don't know if he'll be back by then.
The prognosis on Devin Booker, I think it's a few games he's at least going to be out. Yeah. But does that even matter? Because, I mean, I don't know. You have Chris Paul.
I don't know. But the thing is Stephen Curry sucked during that game. He sucked. And if he only plays at like 50% to his level, then maybe it's a different game, right? But at the same time, if Booker's still in the game, you can't play this game, Damian, to go mad. I will, and I'll go insane. But
it does feel like Devin Booker being out, to me, it feels like that's something you can overcome. If Chris Paul were to be out, that is something you can't overcome.
Yeah.
So very plainly, very clearly, everyone agrees Chris Paul's the better player, right? If we're picking who's the best Suns player, it's definitely Chris Paul, right?
I'll say he's the most impactful player.
Okay.
But if you're going talent wise, I'm going Devin Booker all the time.
What
if I'm like saying, if we're playing pickup,
I don't know what does talent mean in that sentence? I'm saying who's the best at NBA.
I'm saying
basketball.
Outside of the NBA, strip the whole organization thing out of it.
This is one of those hooper versus he's a basketball player. He's not a hooper.
He's a pure
Devin Booker's the better hooper.
Devin Booker is the better hooper.
If you're playing at the gym and Chris Paul can't do the rip through move.
Exactly.
He can't manipulate the rules to his advantage.
Right. If Chris Paul can't take advantage of the rules and regulations that are in place, then it's Devin Booker all day.
Oh, so we got Chris Paul, obviously the more influential player because he obviously been in the league longer. I mean, he's already a Hall of Famer if he stops right now. But I saw the influence of Chris Paul in a game, the Kings-Grizzlies game in the last week. you could see the influence where Buddy Hield did a very Chris Paul thing. Buddy Hield noticed that Jaren Jackson Jr., when shooting a free throw, stepped outside the top of the key to give a high five. And everyone knows this used to be a huge problem in the NBA where everyone was high-fiving everyone on the court. It was really slowing the game down. It had to be cleaned up. Like a bunch of suburban whites were watching, and they did not like all that high-fiving. And so we're like, we have to get this out of the game. And so now it's a delay of game if you leave the little free throw circle to do a high five. So Buddy Hield sees Jaren Jackson Jr. doing that, points at it, yells, delay a game, and starts walking to the other end of the court to shoot his free throw. And the officials they call it delay a game, and they're trying to wave Buddy Hield to come back. And Buddy Hield's like, no, this is the second delay of game. There was an inbounds delay of game earlier. I get a free throw. And the referees conferred, got their heads together. They're like, he's right. And Buddy Hield's just waiting for him to shoot that free throw on the other end of the court. That's the Chris Paul influence.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul is the guy, and you tell me as a non-Suns fan, he's the guy that you hate if he's not on your team.
Well, I think
like someone doing that
Chris
stuff
Paul.
Is.
But I hate that. Well, no, but we're talking hate. I hate Devin Booker more.
Yeah, we've talked about this, but the hate seems just so irrational to me.
We've already covered this on the show.
Yeah, so we're not going to go down the road again, but just
look back at previous episodes if you need.
Yeah, to get Keith's irrational hatred of Devin Booker.
Yeah, it's irrational. That's fine.
Well, how about Monty Williams almost messing up the game with his walk on the court, thinking it's a timeout?
Oh, that was amazing.
I'd say genius move on Steve Kerr's part. To be like, I know he thinks I'm going to call a timeout. I'm going to not do it.
He was almost, I mean, like if the Suns lose that game, we're talking about in that titanic clash between the Warriors and Suns on Tuesday night. I believe Jay Crowder hit consecutive 3-pointers to open up the game to a 6-point game.
The Valley's going rumbling.
Nuts. Yeah. The Valley's rumbling. What's it called? The footprint is shaking.
The footprint shaking.
Anyway.
The Phoenix Suns gorilla is dunking on the
they still have the gorilla, huh?
I don't know. I think they might have gotten rid of the gorilla.
That guy quietly gotten rid of.
A terrible move.
No, but so Monty Williams assumes the Warriors are going to call a timeout to stop the run, and he stumbles onto the court much like Dennis Hopper in Hoosiers, and he's like just high-fiving his teammates, his players, and like the Warriors come back down the court, and then the refs like, whoa. Then they call a technical foul. Monty Williams stops his team's own run.
He's mid-court at that. I mean, keep in mind, he doesn't just step on it like a little bit. He's almost mid-court and runs off like he's like gotten into the background of someone taking a picture, like a family photo or something.
What's Dennis Hopper's character? Is it Shooter? What's his name? It is Shooter. All right, it's Shooter from Hoosiers. Yeah, no, that would have worked out terribly for Monty Williams. Thankfully, I guess the Suns pull it out. We talk about impactful players and the importance of Chris Paul, him being maybe the most important one for the Suns. There's another guy that I think has been absolutely crucial this year.
Landry Shamit.
I did make fun of them trading for Landry Shamit. He's been fine. No, I think JaVale McGee. True or false? If the Suns last season have JaVale McGee, they win the title.
Yeah, and I'll go as far as to say if they had Dario, if Dario hadn't gotten injured, we would have won the title.
Oh,
So Keith, if you want to jump on board,
I'm not ready to go there for that. But I think JaVale, he's just filled in everything they needed. They got murdered last season when in the playoffs when Ayton left the court.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This year, JaVale's been dominating in his minutes.
Yeah, for sure. If JaVale's in there, we absolutely win the title. And he's a rebound machine. He's one of the league leaders as a backup, leading in offensive rebounds. I think he's like third. Stan Van Gundy mentioned
he gets like 10 rebounds a game in 12 minutes. It's it's a remarkable feat. Doing everything he needed.
Dude, he is when was he drafted? Because he's
oh my God.
I remember like so much talk of him coming out. I'm trying to see where his what draft
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was drafted by the Wizards. That's right.
Oh, he had quite. I mean, he signed that huge. He was
yeah.
good on the Wizards, and then he went to the Nuggets and signed that huge contract.
He's a guy that could end up winning like 8 championships because he's going to stay in the league until he's
and
like
a gold medal.
and
Already got that gold medal.
Yeah,
he's just a champion, a born winner.
And his mother won a gold medal, didn't she?
Oh yeah,
isn't that
his mom? Yeah,
his mom famous mom.
Medal. Yeah, that's right. Do the thing where you tell me that I told you I made fun of JaVale McGee.
Yeah, I remember last time we talked, I mentioned that we got JaVale McGee and you laughed in my face.
Oh,
yeah.
And
now all of a sudden you love him.
Now that you mention it, I kind of remember that. You were like, this year the Suns are going to be great because they got JaVale McGee. And I'm like, that's the secret.
I told you.
You're right.
You're right. You laughed.
I did laugh.
You laughed right in my Zoom screen.
Yeah. Turns out you were right. And the Suns are the best team ever.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as they lose or something horrible happens, Damian, I will definitely reach out and hopefully you'll come back on at that point.
Yeah, I will. I'd love to come back.
Well, thanks for hanging. Thanks for dropping in and I'll talk to you soon.
Me. Yeah. See you, Keith.
All right. Thanks, buddy.
Dude, thanks, man.
I'm going to piece that together. I was recording my own end. So,
do you think some of it,
I might be able to piece together if there were any other jokes that I missed out on. I tried to re-hit the peaks.
Just send me your audio track too, if you need to, and I'll try to fill it in.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Dude, thanks for having me, man. That was fun.
All right, bud. I'll reach out again.
Yeah. Sweet.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You did. You too.